Smile, you're on TV. Well, of course you're not really. You're at home deciding if you'll watch and what you'll watch. But in the very early days of TV, people worried that if they had a set, the program producers would be able to see right into their homes. Now, of course, it's possible to have a video phone installed so TV can be a two-way street. It's part of the satellite revolution. In the 30s, Robert Sarnoff of the Radio Corporation of America predicted that TV would transform human relations, and it has. In third world countries, children neglect traditional skills to learn about computers from TVO. Sarnoff also said TV had great potential as an educational tool, and he predicted that the new medium could become a very effective sales tool.
The world in the mid-80s is girdled by pictures, showering down from more than 60 satellites. Television for hundreds of millions of viewers. And today, a whole new generation of television satellites is about to lift off as the opening salvo in a global television revolution. In the Soviet Union, the race for television was also making progress in the late 1920s. Alongside the massive social upheaval in the years following the revolution, Soviet scientists quickly solved the basic problems of producing television pictures.
This, in essence, is the first television picture obtained by us as long ago as 1928.
While an experimental studio was set up in Leningrad working with mechanical TV, major developments in electronic television were being made in Tashkent as early as 1926. For the time being, radio was the new popular miracle, while some Soviet scientists had left revolutionary Russia to continue the television race in the West. In America, Vladimir Zworykin, one of the emigre pioneers from the Soviet Union committed to electronic television, found his new ideas weren't immediately popular in the early 20s with his American boss at the Westinghouse Company.
He wasn't very impressed. So finally he asked me a few questions, mostly how long did I work with this system and so on, and departed, saying few words to the director of the laboratory. Later on I found out that what he said was, put his guy to work on something more useful.
Zworykin soon went to work for the huge and powerful RCA company and its boss, another Russian emigre, David Sarnoff. America's crucial link between big business and television was quickly forged. Sarnoff, a pioneer of radio in America, was already delivering visionary pronouncements about TV's potential. He announced, the whole country will join in every national procession. He also predicted that television would transform human relations.
Above everything else, the American people want leaders who will keep the peace, keep the peace, keep the peace. Henry Cabot Lodge and I keep the peace. No, Mr. Khrushchev. No, Mr. Khrushchev. No, Mr. Khrushchev. Lodge and I, no, firm diplomacy. No, Mr. Khrushchev. No, Mr. Khrushchev. No, peace for America and the world.
We have an exclusive report from Michael Terrorist Black from Patterson, New Jersey.
الحلم الكبير كيف تراه؟ كما قال خالد بن الوليد مع النصر.
I believe that limited nuclear war will work. Under the Charter of the United Nations, we are asking tonight that an emergency meeting of the Security Council be convoked without delay.
We have an exclusive report from Frankie.
The air attack warning sounds like this is the sound.
When you hear the air attack warning, you and your family must take cover.
No apologies. No regrets.
Teutonic Resistance back once again. Hope you didn't mind that long intro, but I thought that would fit this subject matter we're about to get into. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the Jewish matrix of false reality. Kind of like the basis of the real Matrix movie, except they didn't tell you they told you it was machines instead of the Jews. Mainly with the invention of television, television and now the internet, but we still have some somewhat freedom to find different source material on the internet as of now, but you really have to search for it, which most average people are just too lazy to do. If it's something they have to dig a little bit for, they just don't have the gumption or the will to do it. In this video, I just want to talk about, psychological warfare, propaganda, brainwashing, programs like MK Ultra, the Tavistock Institute, the Frankfurt School, and mainly all these really deep wormhole methods of demagoguery and manipulation of the mind, psychological manipulation that's been going on for a very long time. Started thousands of years ago through the use of religion, and it's now moved into television, entertainment, things like that, even video games, things that really brainwash people and tell them how to think. And, a lot of people are waking up to it, but there's still a lot of sheeple out there that just can't see, they can't recognize the propaganda when it's being shoveled down their throat and when it's so damn blatant and obvious. But I guess when you grow up with it, and that's all that's been shoved down your throat your whole life, it's basically reality and you don't know any different. So, like I said, we're going to be talking about like the origins of television, how they started to use television for psychological manipulation, biased information, and the invention of news media, and then beginnings of Hollywood. Even the root of Hollywood, from what I've heard, was Hollywood was a particular type of staff that Druid priests would use to cast magic. You got programs like MK Ultra with the government, which they'll tell you now that those programs ended in the 60s, and it was just going on because of the Cold War and all this shit, and that's a bunch of bullshit. You better believe those programs were never officially shut down. They're probably still going on pretty strong today. You just don't hear about them. But most people are like out of sight, out of mind. If they don't hear about it, it must not exist. From early experiments with Pavlov and Pavlov's dogs, and experimenting on how to manipulate behavior, which you see a lot of that's called social engineering. You know, look at what's going on right now with this coronavirus. People are basically being told, oh, if you go out your house, you have at a high risk of your health being affected. You could die, this and that. You got people scared shitless out of their mind. They don't want to go out in public. You see people with these masks and just freaking out. Don't want to get within 10 foot of another person. It's just fucking ridiculous, man. I can't believe how stupid these people are. How gullible people still are today. I think people are dumber now than what they were 50 years ago. I mean, you might have access to more information, but just as far as this pure common sense, people have really been devolved. So you got an agenda-driven false reality, you know, from this national mainstream news we have. And the news can very well be faked to an extreme degree here. And what I don't get is even people in the truth movement, some people, you know, in the white nationalist movement, and just they'll call out the control of the media by Zionist Jewry, but they won't say, like, yeah, they, you know, media lies about everything, but oh yeah, this coronavirus, they wouldn't lie about that. No way. So especially like people like David Duke, man, and even Mark Collette, guys I like that, but it's like they can't think outside of the box. They have this like boomer limited mentality. They don't really know the extent of how deep these frickin' lies can go, how deep the deception goes, varying depth of these rabbit holes that these people make. I mean, it boggles the mind how deep they can go. It ends at a certain point, and it doesn't. You really have to investigate every bit of reality. Occam's razor, you know, when the most evident thing is true, it probably is. We've been lied to about history. There's the omission of great big parts of history are left out. You know, like what led up to certain events in history, or precursor events that are totally omitted. When you just told names, dates, and places, you're not told about what's going on behind the scenes, what politics winded up coming about to influence this event. You know, we're given the mushroom treatment, you know, kept in the dark and fed bullshit. And most sheep never question reality, take everything at face value, never question authority. That's one thing I've really noticed. People do not question authority anymore. They act like it's just the be-all, end-all, you know, like you would never be lied to by the government or the media. It's ridiculous. Especially boomers, you know. Boomers cannot really achieve critical thinking. And like I said, even some of the nationalists and truth movement can't see past a certain limited reality to how far the psychological deception is taken. They'll believe the same controlled media they claim to expose. And our enemy has studied psychology and how to manipulate us through demagoguery, like using tactics like demagoguery, gaslighting, fear-mongering, aggrandizement, all these different types of things that your average people just don't know about. Psychology and how it works. They don't know anything about psychological warfare. Most people don't know these things. They're like little children, or grown adults with the minds of little children. And it's just from religion, the control of religion, to every form of information, every information outlet, to institutional education. Nothing's left to chance. Just read the protocols of the learned elders of Zion. From controlled revolutions, civil wars, the outcome of those wars, you know, by shoveling money into whoever you want to win. Just like with the Bolshevik Revolution, you know, Jacob Schiff sent off Lev Bronstein, a.k.a. Leon Trotsky, with $20 million and a boatload of Jews, communist Jews out of New York City, sent them to Russia to start a revolution. Most people don't know that. Controlled revolutions, even the American Revolution, you know, French Revolution, Russian Revolution, the victor gets the spoils and writes the history. Am I right? There's this major things we've been lied to, even getting into the origins of man, of the whole Africa theory, you know, how long humans have been on the planet, history, prehistory, civilizations that were around over 10,000 years ago that were pretty advanced, and that there's some remnants of today. And you have everything from religion condemning this to controlled archaeological expeditions to bullshit psyops like ancient aliens to disprove all of this. I'll probably break this up into 2 separate videos because there's a lot to go over. But I think one of the first true tests of this method might have went back to Orson Welles, who I believe was the cousin of H.G. Wells. You know, 2 real Marxists. War of the Worlds alien invasion broadcast, I really think that whole thing was a psyop to see how people would react to it. That if they would present something totally fictional over something like radio or television, if people would believe it. And that was just really the first real testing the waters. Totally, Orson Welles was in on stuff like this. If you ever saw that old program, The Man Who Saw Tomorrow, about Nostradamus, who Nostradamus was full of bullshit, Nostradamus, but Orson Welles is on that, and he's talking about all this self-fulfilling prophecy stuff that the Jews have done, even getting into the Middle Eastern wars, even back then, which was the 80s when this came out. We'll get into a bit of this, and I'll talk about major events in history that are either partial or total bullshit that people believe. There's stuff going on behind the scenes that people can't comprehend. I got a lot of other videos that touch upon these subjects, but I'll just kind of go over each one. It's like a lot of people still believe in moon landings, holohoax, or they know nothing about the real Holocaust, like the gulags in Russia and the Holodomor. I mean, these people are the gatekeepers of reality through things like television and the control of media. That's why they always make sure they control all the information, they control the history books. You know, that's when I hear about this, the Romans burned down the Library of Alexandria. I can guarantee you that was done by the Jews, by the tribe. And they probably didn't burn everything down. They probably took everything and it's probably hid in the damn basement of the Vatican now. Either the Vatican archives or in some Rothschild vault somewhere. You better believe it. They control information like they control every other resource in the world. And this is a big problem. When you control the past, you control the present, and you control the future. And that's been going on for a long time now. So people need to wake up. They need to learn true history because we just really want the truth. That's all I've really wanted, is just the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. No more fake stories, no more make-believe, no more fairy tales. We want true history. You know, even if it hurts, I want the truth. And these people do not want the truth getting out. But I don't care what you do. Eventually the truth slips out. It does. And they know it. And they take measures for when that happens because they know it's inevitable. And right now they're crashing everything because they know their lies and their house of cards are falling down. So they're taking measures, doing just like Samson and bringing the whole temple down with them. You better believe it. So we'll go over some more of this stuff and probably show you a little short clip right here on War of the Worlds.
This world was being watched closely by intelligences greater than man's.
There was one man working on the cutting edge of radio who saw past that hokiness and envisioned science fiction's dramatic potential. His name was Orson Welles, the 23-year-old boy genius of the New York stage and a popular voice-for-hire actor on the airwaves. Welles instinctively understood that the persuasive power of radio, plus the outlandishness of science fiction, could yield explosive results. With Halloween just around the corner, Welles and his partner, producer John Houseman, were looking for a way to spark their ratings by giving the audience a good scare. They set their sights on War of the Worlds, a novella by the father of sci-fi, H.G. Wells. Just 6 days before Halloween Eve, Wells ordered staff writer Howard Koch to update this 1898 tale set in Victorian England into an edgy, modern American thriller.
It basically becomes almost a whole new story. I mean, they've got the title, but they can't do it in the modern day without making a lot of changes. And Koch kept trying to beg out of it and saying, I can't do it. And they kept saying, you have to.
New York, the Queen Mary.
Koch and Wells agreed on the technique of breaking news updates to give the production an immediate and contemporary feel. They couldn't have imagined then how fateful a decision using that technique would be. Those who tuned into CBS heard this straightforward introduction.
The Columbia Broadcasting System and its affiliated stations present Orson Welles and the Mercury Theater on the air in The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells.
We know now that in the early years of the 20th century, that as human beings busied themselves about their various concerns, they were scrutinized and studied, perhaps almost as narrowly as a man with a microscope might scrutinize the transient creatures that swarm and multiply in a drop of water.
To those tuning in to the beginning of the broadcast, it was perfectly clear that Orson Welles was narrating the opening of a suspenseful drama.
In the 39th year of the 20th century came the Great Disillusionment.
There was only one problem. 90% of the listeners never heard Orson Welles in his poetic prologue.
Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt our program of dance music to bring you a special bulletin from the Intercontinental Radio News. At 20 minutes before 8 Central Time, Professor Farrell of the Mount Jennings Observatory, Chicago, Illinois, reports observing several explosions of incandescent gas occurring at regular intervals on the planet Mars. The spectroscope indicates...
It didn't seem at that point at all preposterous. Mars does exist, and it may be as entitled to explosions as any other part of the universe is.
We now return you to the music of Ramon Raquello in downtown New York.
The news bulletin came and went with little fanfare. But listeners gathered more closely around their radios when they heard that a world-famous astronomer was getting involved.
Ladies and gentlemen, following on the news given in our bulletin a moment ago, we are ready now to take you to the Princeton Observatory at Princeton, where Carl Phillips, our commentator, will interview Professor Richard Pearson, famous astronomer.
Professor, would you please tell our radio audience exactly what you see as you observe the planet Mars through your telescope?
Nothing unusual at the moment, Mr. Phillips. A red disk swimming in the blue sea. Transverse stripes across the disk. Quite distinct now because Mars happens to be at the point...
Many audience members didn't realize that astronomer Pearson was only a character, played by Orson Welles himself.
Conditions peculiar to the planet.
The news reporter, Carl Phillips, was also portrayed by an actor, Frank Reddick.
In your opinion, what do these transverse stripes signify, Professor Pearson?
Not canals, I can assure you, Mr. Phillips. Although that's the popular conjecture of those who imagine Mars to be inhabited.
Ladies and gentlemen, here is the latest bulletin from the Intercontinental Radio News. It is reported that at 8:50 p.m., a huge flaming object, believed to be a meteorite, fell on a farm in the neighborhood of Grover's Mill, New Jersey, 22 miles from Trenton.
Grover's Mill, New Jersey? It is a real place. By just 15 minutes into the broadcast, 6 million Americans were huddled near their radios, transfixed by the sound of a Martian spacecraft beginning to open. Thanks to a carefully placed microphone, the echoes in the men's lavatory, and the sound effects director's trusty pickle jar. was just a dramatic illusion, but it was beginning to work a little too well.
Keep those men back! The top blue! Look out there! Stand back!
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the most terrifying thing I've ever witnessed. Someone's calling someone or something. I can see something wriggling out of the shadow like a gray snake. I can see the thing's body now. It's large as a bear. Eyes are black and they gleam like a serpent. The mouth is kind of V-shaped with saliva dripping from its rimless lips. It seems to quiver and pulsate, and the monster or whatever it is can hardly move. It seems weighed down by possibly gravity or something. The thing's rising up now, and the crowd falls back. They've seen plenty. Well, I'll pull this microphone with me as I talk. I'll have to stop the description until I can take a new position. Hold on, will you please? I'll be right back in a minute.
Ladies and gentlemen, due to circumstances beyond our control, we are unable to continue the broadcast from Grover's Mill.
I just knew that these people had been wiped out. And there was nothing that could be done.
I think I was the first one to stand and start to pace the room. And then finally, the adults were pacing the room too and sort of wringing their hands and talking about what, if anything, they could do.
I can make out their khaki uniforms.
As listeners drew round their radios with growing concern, more bulletins of disaster trickled in.
There appears to be some slight smoke.
40 people dead in the field at Grover's Mill, reporter Carl Phillips among them.
Well,
the governor placing New Jersey under martial law, then dispatching 7,000 U.S. soldiers to lay waste to the killer creatures, now holed up inside their cylinder.
No, it's nothing but a shadow. Now the troops are on the edge of the Wilmot Farm. 7,000 armed men closing in on an old metal tube. A tub, rather. Well, wait, that wasn't a shadow. It's something moving. Solid metal, kind of a shield-like affair rising up out of the cylinder. It's going higher and higher. What? It's standing on legs, actually rearing up on a sort of metal framework. Now it's reaching above the trees and the searchlights are on it. Hold on.
Someone comes barging through the door and said, "The Martians have landed at Grover's Mill." I felt that maybe there was some association between the Martians and Hitler. That's probably why I felt it was really true.
Nowhere was the terror more palpable than at Ground Zero, Grover's Mill.
We were just about 2.5 miles from Grover's Mill. Boy, my grandfather got all excited. He grabbed the chairs and put them backwards under the door. He said, "Don't worry about it, kids, we'll be all right." People were going all different directions. I knew people had the general store. I talked to them the next day. They took their money out of their safe, and they were heading for the Poconos.
Not everyone in town was headed for the hills. Some grabbed their guns and decided to make a stand. Sean Ellsworth's father and uncle were among them.
Somebody shot up with the idea, well, let's, form a posse and, gather up the Martians. And then the next thing you know, they're shooting into the dead of the night, and the posse would think that it was a Martian hiding behind a tree or behind a bush.
There's an old water tower right by the mill. Supposedly this old fellow thought it was a rocket ship, and he shot his shotgun right at it and put holes in it.
Wells and the cast were interviewed by the police, by the network executives. And for a while that night, it appeared that their careers might be over.
Do you think that this will cause the curbing of radio bulletins on the air today? Have you altered your plans for future problems in any way as a result of this incident? Don't you think that somebody here would have been able to gauge the reaction, which in fact has occurred throughout the United States?
Well, CBS was embarrassed. They were a little frightened. None of them expected that reaction. They hemmed and hawed, and they had a press conference.
Do you think there ought to be a law against such enactments as we had last night as a result of that? I don't know what the legislation would be. Radio is new, and we are learning about the effect it has on people. We learned a terrible lesson.
I think it is the first time that the real understanding of the power of mass media in a non-political way. We'd already learned the power for good
that radio could have as a unifying experience. But I don't think anybody realized the potential for danger involved in radio till Orson did that.
Were you aware of terror at the time you were giving this role? Were you aware that terror was going on throughout the nation? Oh, no, of course not. We did Dracula.
Wells gave the greatest performance of his career at that press conference.
React as they do in a movie.
So pious, so shaken, so guilty.
Quiet. Do you want me to speak now? I'm sorry. Of course, we are deeply shocked and deeply regretful about the results of last night's broadcast.
Within a year, Wells would be on his way to Hollywood to mastermind some of history's most unforgettable films, including Citizen Kane, voted by the American Film Institute as the greatest movie of all time.